Hello there, and we are live. See ya, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to another episode of Real Talk, and of course, yeah, see ya, people. Yeah, today I got this guy. Yeah, I mean, he's a West Ham fan. Yeah, great guy. I mean, when you go through his channel, yeah, I mean, it's fun, it's facts. But I really like the fun side of life, just a little bit, because people talk about football in a very, very serious manner. I mean, it's so charged, it's pent up with lots of emotions. I mean, sometimes it's just good to just relax, sit back, and just enjoy every moment that it brings. I mean, enjoy the joys that it brings, enjoy the happiness that it brings also. And that's what this guy that I've just brought to the channel, who I'll be introducing to you guys, quite soon. I know you've seen him in other places. We've worked in tandem with other people, like the other West Ham fan, Anthony. I know you've been to Anthony's Sunday daily takeout on Sundays, his show that he has down there. I know you've worked with a very big collaborator of mine and someone I really hold dear, Josh Truguna. I know you've worked with him.
Yeah.
Also, I've seen that you've worked with Latimer's. I've worked with Latimer's, in some incendiary spaces. But again, it's just you. And we've worked together with lots of people before in terms of collaboration. And it's just nice that I get this West Ham fan down here. See you guys. A big welcome to my guy, Mike's. Talk to these people. How are you doing? Guys, you get to po. He's in a gunner station. Po. You're welcome, Mike's. How you doing, brother? Talk to these people.
Hey, no, thank you for the intro. That's the best intro I've ever had on YouTube by far, man. It's good to be on the channel, man. It's good to be on the channel. But yeah, man, I like having a balance of, like, obviously when I'm talking about West Ham, I can get amped up. Like when I'm doing shows with other people, the chemistry is there. So we start going left with the show. It starts going off topic, but on purpose, sort of thing. Because once you structure a show and it becomes too structured, you try and force it too much, like it doesn't really work. But when you just let it go left, and that's why I like doing the shows with the people I do shows with. When I go on other people's channels and people on my channel, like when it works out. But yeah, I always enjoy collaborating with people no matter what the situation is. So it's good to be on here, man.
Yeah, big up to you, Mike. And of course, this would be the start of a great relationship with both our channels, and we can both do stuff. I mean, I've done stuff with Josh. I invited him just like you did, and right now, me and him have collaborations exclusively on his on doing watch alongs on both channels. I mean, we've been working together, and of course, it would be nice to, because I really value what you bring to the table. I like how you analyze stuff. When you're serious, I mean, you get serious stuff. When you're in that banter mood, you know what you can get. And so I like that kind of style. So it's very nice that I could have you on my channel, man. You're welcome to the show. See, man, with that much ado, I mean, when it gets to serious topics, yeah, I mean, we have to talk about West Ham, yeah. I mean, guys, see, take it easy on our brother down here, yeah. I know West Ham are not having a good run in the league right now, yeah. Some people will say they're total garbage, but I mean, what do you think about West Ham right now? And I mean, scored 29 goals this season. I mean, I'm not going to shout about it. Actually, Mike, I'm a stats guy, and sometimes, yeah, it's quite good to view things from the eye test, because I've also watched some of your shows too, and I know that you're not really into the stats thing, because you're like giving the benefit of the doubt to the eye test, and I do understand that. But again, I do believe that football is a game of numbers, and in a game of numbers, in terms of scoring goals, assists, you do need metrics to be able to tell you, hey, who's scoring goals? Who's running around in a hit map? Who's out there pressing? Who's there creating? Who's down there creating how many chances? Who's not doing so? I mean, who's down there actually defending? Who is down there actually intercepting balls? And you do need superb metrics to actually get you across the line and give you the numbers. Like I said, football is a game of numbers. Since football is a game of numbers, your team this season, guys, West Ham, 29 goals scored in 25 games. And you know what? Yeah, this is the big one. You are almost worse off Southampton. The only two teams that you've actually, you have a better defensive record this season. It's maybe Southampton and maybe Leicester City. You've conceded a whooping 47 goals, my brother, and you're sitting deep in 19th in the league. I mean, sorry, 16th in the league. So, I mean, take us through what you think about what's really going on with West Ham right now, with the numbers that we've just talked about. 16th in the league, scored 29 goals, 47 goals conceded. Talk
Yeah.
to these people.
Yeah, a lot of that is due to the previous manager specifically as well, because obviously we started the season with Julian Lopetegui, an appointment that none of us were really that inspired by in the first place, to be completely honest with you. And as much as we gave him a chance, I was very much saw that in 5 games in what the guy was like. Because the reason why I said 5 games in as well is because he had a pre-season to get his style of play. That's what most managers do when they take over in the summer. They'll get your style of play in, no matter what the style of play is, attacking or defensive or direct or wherever it is. It will get your identity in. We was not asking
Mm,
for much. Well, me specifically, I was not asking for much because as much as we had the new signings in and stuff like that as well, I've seen it too many times at this club where it's like we get a lot of new signings in and none of them gel together because we don't have the right coach in place. And I maintain at
mm,
the start that that was the problem because that we're basically suffering from a confliction of power at the top because we hired a director of football, the Tim Steinen, to get all the signings in, and he got his signings in, but not all of them he approved of because the manager wanted different players. And the problem is when you let a manager get too involved with the talent ID in modern day football, it becomes a big problem. You kind of just got to let
yeah,
him tell him the type of player you want, and then the director of football will give you the player. It's quite a simple concept that some of these old school managers can't comprehend, like a Lopetegui, for example. That's why we're suffering
yeah,
with a couple of players that aren't at the same level. But the director of football has been sacked since now that the new manager's coming because the owner thinks he's better than the director of football, even though when the owner has been in charge of transfers, he has not given us one good transfer window in the 14 years that he's been here. Now, going back to
yeah,
the Lopetegui thing and why we conceded so many goals is because Lopetegui would sit his team high up the pitch, but without any pressing on the ball. So what you're doing, you're basically sitting back, but you're high up. So all it takes is one long ball over the top for any team to get through on goal, and that's what we've been a victim of. Because individually, it's actually one of the best defensive, like set of defenders we've had in my lifetime. Because we've got Wan-Bissaka at right back, Tadibo,
yeah,
Gilbert at centre back, and Emerson at left back. That's by far the best back four I've seen at West Ham. But the problem is we've had the wrong structure this whole time. And the problem is with Lopetegui, we don't know what kind of manager he is till this day. He got sacked 8 months
mm,
in, and even in those 8 months, we did not know what he was trying to do with the team. Now, players like Wan-Bissaka, Tadibo, Kilman, and Emerson deserve a better structure because individually they've showed their quality. But the reason why they can't show it over game in, game out is because they don't have the structure behind it. And 90% of what you see on the pitch is via the manager nowadays because of the so like robotic system game we are based in now. And it's not
I
lacking
mean,
that
I mean, I'll cut you up down there. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about a structure and the manager getting that structure in, and the manager having a style of play. I mean, don't you think that the league these days? Yeah, I mean, I've watched some couple of your shows. I mean, even you yourself, you do know that the system in the Premier League has gone apeshit. I mean, we've seen Amorim come down to Manchester United, and almost how many months into his reign in Manchester United, he still hasn't gotten that form. He still hasn't
yeah,
gotten them playing in the kind of style that you would say this manager has a playing style. Or in your football club, has it even started even getting any style done right now? And I mean, I
this
can't
is
see
why
any
we
style of play.
this is why,
And then
this is why we
even
say we want to
Lopo
grow.
you, he lost. I mean, he had lots of losses, yeah, in his reign, yeah. Personally, I didn't see any style of play. Are you not factoring into transition? Yeah, like why aren't managers that just come into the league? Yeah, why don't they have this structure? I mean, with a snap of their fingers. I mean, it's easy for you to say that maybe a coach like Mikel Arteta has his guys playing the way he wants them to play. Of course, he's been there for about 5 seasons. So somehow the way he wants to play is already imprinted in the Arsenal team. So it might not be perfect, but I mean, he has a style of play how he wants them to play.
Yeah,
I mean, don't you think it's a big ask to ask Potter to have a style of play in a few
yeah,
months when Amorim, who did have great style of play in Spotting CP, came down to Manchester United and is literally struggling. Lopetegui struggling. I mean, most football clubs that have brought in managers, apart from, let's say, maybe Areola and Slot, have struggled to actually imprint any kind of structure into their team in a short amount of time.
But the reason why I'm saying him for Lopetegui is because he had a preseason. You had practice beforehand. Graham Potter, I saw what he was trying to do. When he had one training session before the Aston Villa game. I know what you're trying to do at least. And that's all I wanted this season. If you can settle in with what you're trying to do, I will go easy on you, and then we can see what players are good enough to even fit in what you're trying to do. With Ruben Amorim, for example, again, he's been hired mid-season with a bunch of players that under Ten Hag weren't doing well, under previous managers weren't doing well. And Man United is such a big problem in itself that they've hired a specific manager who's like, that three in the back systems are too, like, you got to have specialist players. They are going, if they really want to stick with him, it's going to take a very, very long time for them to go back to anywhere near they want to get to. And so I think they're a whole different issue. They're an anomaly for me. With Graham Potter, I'm not going to go in on him for this season because you've been hired not only one training session before an FA Cup match, but in the middle of a transfer window where you didn't have any chance to get any of your players in apart from Evan Ferguson right at the end. With Lopetegui, he had over 100 million to spend in a pre-season, by the way, where he got all the players he wanted out, all the players he wanted in. He got everyone he wanted in every position. He was very insistent on wanting 2 players in each position for competition-wise, and he got that, and he still couldn't form anything. And the reason why that is as well, he's a bad man manager on top of his style of play. And that's what's messed us up. Like, there's no cohesiveness within the team. You got to let players get used to being at West Ham United along the existing players that have been here for years, so they can gel together as one dressing room. But the problem is he had no command in that. So a lot of the big players didn't take to him straight away, or even a few games in, because of how bad he was man management wise. Because his ruthlessness, his so-called ruthlessness when it came to substitutions and tactics and team selections didn't add up, and he wasn't keeping the same energy with the players that were performing on the pitch. So a lot of that was the reason why the morale was down and why we were conceding and stuff like that as well. Now, when it came to scoring, we weren't even like letting shots on goal, let alone even trying to create chances or testing the keeper. The biggest problem when it comes to our attacking play this season, and this has mainly been under the previous manager for me, is actually testing the goalkeepers. Like I could probably name only Jordan Pickford when we played Everton months ago under Sean Dyche, we drew 0-0, and Pickford had a masterclass in the last 10 minutes of the game. But even before that, we didn't test the keeper. We haven't tested many keepers in the Premier League at all. We've got battered week in, week out, basically under Lopetegui, and he would get that one win.
Don't you think that's due to the kind of players you have? I mean, it's okay when we blame the managers. I mean, about not having a style of play, not having the proper structure. I mean, don't you think it's time we look inwards into the kind of players that they have in these football clubs? I mean, I've seen Amorim. Yeah, you can't tell me about the quality of Amorim, for instance, in Manchester United, because we've seen him previously done lots of stuff with mid-base players in a different league. I clearly understand that. But again, he's come down to Manchester United with horrible, horrible players. And you can see, I mean, what he's done down there. Total garbage. You look at Potter right here, right now, in 8 games. I mean, the 8 games that I have the metrics right now, he's only won one. And that one came in that London derby against Fulham. You've been disgraced by Manchester City this season. I mean, 5-2, something like that. Mocked off the FA Cup. I mean, the FA Cup. I mean, West Ham. You expect West Ham to be going in deep. I mean, into maybe kind of like maybe quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Potter didn't do that. So I mean, to what extent would we say the players you have right now aren't what you should be having right now, considering that you brought in Fulkrug, who I don't even really rate. I mean, he's a 31-year-old, playing the German Bundesliga, didn't really tear up trees down there in Germany. I mean, you have 2 defenders, Mavropanos, who Arsenal dumped a long time ago. I mean, it doesn't inspire anything big down there as your centre-back, innit? I mean, you can see the partnership with Kilman. I understand Kilman, if you partner him with maybe a big imposing figure who has experience, it could be something more different. But I mean, with Mavropanos, that quality really isn't there. I could also say talk about Kudus and say that his quality has actually dropped since 2 seasons right now. And I mean, 2 seasons ago, I really wanted Kudus to be in my football club, and right now, I can't really say I really want that guy right now because I mean,
Yeah,
his style of play, his attitude these days. I mean, probably maybe he's having dressing room issues with the players. I don't know. To what extent, Mike, would you blame? I mean, the, would you blame the players that you have right now? I mean, of course, I know you like Bowen. I mean, I've seen you praise Bowen time and time without number, but I mean, the numbers aren't really there. I mean, if you check it, the numbers aren't there. And you have Fulcrum, who you brought in and is injured right now. What's
yeah.
your defense with
Bowen
this?
Bowen has been played most of the time out of the phases where he shouldn't be playing most of the season. That was mainly under the old manager. Bowen's only just come
Mm,
back from injury. He's only played 2 games since. So I'm not really going to go too far in on Bowen. He's been one of the most been one of the few players that's actually performed for us. Him and Wan-Bissaka, I can
yeah,
say consistently, despite managerial issues and stuff like that as well. The Man City game where we lost, that was Lopetegui's last game. So I can't really blame that on Potter because he wasn't there. The FA Cup game, he had one training session to prepare for. Again, I don't expect much from him. I wish we hired him like when we was meant to hire him a few weeks ago when we got lost when we lost to Leicester under Bruce Van Nistelrooy
Leicester, yeah.
in late November when we was meant to hire him. But for some reason, they decided to keep Lopetegui and then unsack him
Mm,
after we lost to Man City of all teams. You should sack him after you lose to Leicester, not on Man City. But anyway, that's our ownership and that's a whole different issue. I was saying that some
mm,
of the players, I'm not. I'll go in on anyone. Anyone on my channel can get it. Like for example, like any big players, small players, wherever it is. If you don't perform, I'm going to criticize you. Like for someone, I'm glad you mentioned someone like a Kudus. He hasn't been the level as of recent. Definitely not
yeah,
been the level as of this season as well. And I gave him a blind when he was playing out of position under Lopetegui in the left wing. But when you got someone
yeah.
like a Graham Potter who's a better coach, a really good coach out, getting the best out of his attackers, getting the best out of mid-table players as well, and you're playing in your actual position down the middle or on the right, you have no excuses. You have no excuses not to perform. Same way like a Lucas
Mm.
Paquetá, he needs to perform a lot better. Mavropanos, I'm glad you mentioned Mavropanos because he gets on my nerves. He gets on my nerves a
Mm.
lot. He's terrible. He's a terrible player,
It's
and
been it's been
with
horrible, Mike.
yes, yeah,
I
we've
mean,
we've
it's
we've
been
we've
total
missed the
crap. It's
partnership.
it's
Yeah, we've
garbage.
we've missed the partnership of Kilman and Tadibo, the one we've actually meant to have, because Lopetegui insisted with playing Mavropanos over Tadibo of all players, and then Tadibo got injured on Lopetegui's last game, so Graham Potter hasn't had the ability to get Tadibo into the side. Mavropanos was so bad that Cresswell and Soufal, two fullbacks, were playing at centre back over him and were outperforming him. For context, Cresswell is 34. Cresswell has been at West Ham United since 2014. He should not be playing
Mm.
anymore. However, can't fault the guy because he had better application than a Konstantinos Mavropanos. Vladimir Sufa's a
Yeah.
horrible player. He shouldn't be playing for West Ham at all. But he was better than Mavropanos, which says more about Mavropanos than it does anyone on the pitch. We've got a lot of players, don't get me wrong, that aren't good enough either. Like the signing of Edson Alvarez was a terrible signing in the end
Oh,
because,
my
like, as much as I get that he performed well last season, was scapegoated by our boys. This season, you're getting red cards for no reason. You're giving the ball away a
God.
lot.
Yeah.
Do you know when defensive midfielders take too many touches of the ball instead of releasing the ball to a more creative player on the pitch in the midfield that they're in? That's what an Edson Alvarez is because he thinks he's better than he actually is when he's dribbling on the
Mm.
ball. You can't drive with the ball. Keep your job simple. Take 3 touches. Distribute the ball to another midfielder that's a bit more creative that can distribute the ball forward instead of driving with the ball yourself, where you're easy to tackle. He's a
Mm.
big problem. There's a lot of players like that, but I do think there's a lot of players that, for example, haven't been able to play at their level because of the coaching at stake. But at the same time, when you've got a right coach right now, I'm going to criticize you because I know the level of Coach Potter is compared to Lopetegui. I will give you a blind when
Yeah.
there's a terrible coach here, but when there's a really good coach here, I'm not going to give you a blind because it's not Graham Potter's fault that we're losing right now because he's coming mid-season, but he's had no preseason. Where this is basically his preseason before his actual
Mm.
preseason next season because they don't know
Yeah.
his style of play. We know the identity of it. We know what we're trying to do, but whether these players can adapt to that, we will see.
Yeah, definitely. But again, I really when I watched your game, yeah, against Brentford. The thing that just came to my mind was, sorry, West Ham. I mean, down with that number, giving the ball away in the middle of the park. And I mean, Kudus, Alvarez, part of that
Mm.
shambolic duo that actually gave the ball away, down with that number. I mean, I could really count the amount of times that Mavropanos was being beaten black and blue. I mean, in the heart of your own 18-yard box. I mean, it was cringe to watch
Yeah,
what happened. I mean, with Brentford. And if you recalculate it and go with the eye test, you guys were really lucky not to concede about 3 or 4 goals. Buemo was actually a scourge. I mean, to your defenders, everyone was on him, but he was just finding his way through and trying to get one or two things. I mean, to what extent would you say the damage has been caused right now? Because Paqueta isn't really creating right now, and I want to know, who do you have right now that you could say, you know what, yeah, there's no one we could get in the January transfer window. It's already closed. You didn't bring in any creativity down there to help Paqueta even create in any way. Who do you think will take the reins or grab games by the scruff of his neck and help you create more? Who would you demand more in terms of creativity in this team? Because when I watched you against Brentford, there was completely lack of creativity and
yeah,
definitely no chances I mean, for your forward players to even get anything in it.
yeah. I think that's why I criticize Lucas Paquetá and Kudus quite a lot as of recently, because in terms of creating chances for yourself or creating chances for other people, those are the main two that you would probably look to. I did say before Graham Potter came, though, that if he wants to play his style of play here, the board needs to help him in terms of the deeper midfielders that we play, the Alvarez,
Yeah,
the Ward-Prowse, the Sucheks, the whoever it is, Rodriguez as well. None of them could distribute the ball forward good enough in deeper areas, which is what I demand. What I would demand a lot from a Graham Potter team, and what Graham Potter would demand a lot, as he had a Caicedo at Brighton, a Basuma when he was good at Brighton, and Lallana, etc. These players that can distribute the ball, and Alexis McAllister, they were all at
mm,
Brighton under Graham Potter that could distribute the ball from deep. The problem is only Ward-Prowse at times can do that. If I would play a
mm,
Paquetá a bit deeper next to Alvarez, you don't really have much choice at this point. Even though I don't rate Alvarez, the selection at play, I get it, cool, whatever. But Paquetá, for example, if we played him a lot deeper, we can create from deep, and then like a Soler and a Kudus can create in the final third. The only one that can
mm.
grab games by the scruff of the neck, though, is a Jared Bowen. He's the only one that
Yeah,
can do that. But the problem is, when he does create chances, sometimes it's other players that are not finishing them. So he has to do
yeah.
everything himself. He has to put the
Everything
pass in
himself.
front run. He has to shoot all the time. He's been a top goal scorer for the past few seasons. So it doesn't
Exactly. How
really.
many assists does he have anyway? I think,
I
yeah,
don't know the
I mean, he's assisted in, I mean, he scored and assisted in about 10 goal scoring and assist opportunities in about 15 games. I mean, just go through it to check if I'm correct. How many goals has he got this season?
I don't know how many go. I'm gonna guess it's like
And
4 or 5. Unfortunately,
not 4 or 5, but I know that he has both GA in about 10 GAs in about 15 games.
goals for
I mean,
assists.
if you check the crap that you guys have, I mean, Jack Bowen is the only one trying to, I mean, impose himself in games, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So apparently he has 6 goals, 4 assists this season. And to be honest with you,
That's about
despite
10, right?
yeah,
That's
you
about
got it right.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're spot on. Like this is the thing. Despite despite that, that's like very bad stats. With the circumstances that he's been in, with the Lopetegui stuff and him being the only one actually turning up, in terms of also looking at the big names at the club, the Bowens, Paquetas, Kuduses, and like big attackers, he's the only one that's turned up, and he's the only one that still tries to turn up despite the circumstances around him. So instead of someone like a Paquetá and Kudus, where when it's not going well for them, they won't really turn up, like especially a Kudus. At least Paquetá will run around. He runs around a bit. Like it's dumb to say this, but he runs around a bit too much in terms of the fact that when you're running at a certain pace, you can overdo it at a certain point. So when you do have the ball, you've got no energy left. That's the problem with Paquetá. With Kudus, when it's not going well for him, he'll just give up. He'll just give up, and that's the big problem. And I get he must be frustrated that he can't play his football since he's been at West Ham, and he's probably been promised some false things or whatever. But despite all of that, you got to get on with it when you're playing 90 minutes. If you're not being benched and you're on the pitch, get on with it. It's simple as that. We've given you enough of a blight. We know what Paquetá and Kudus are capable of at West Ham because we've seen terrific performances in their time here. So that's when we're going to hold you to that level. So when you're not performing at that level, we're gonna be a lot more critical of you. That's why with Jared Bowen, he always rises to the occasion. And to be fair, he's
Yeah.
been given a captain's armband as well, taking that responsibility. But here's the thing: I don't think he's necessarily a captain per se in terms of the typical vocal, shouty type of captain. However, I do think he's
Yeah.
a leader by example. And I think he's done great in terms of that. He's become one of the senior players. When he first joined, he was like 23, 24. He was learning off the other senior players. And then when we're looking at this new group of West Ham players, he's now one of the senior players. He's now knows what it means to play for West Ham, and everyone will take to him. Like people look at him, and there's a reason why people like him because he turns up in big games. He has application.
Yeah.
He doesn't just
Yeah.
work hard and don't offer you any form of ability. He has the ability. He's actually
He
quite
has the
underrated on the
ability.
wider scale of
Yeah,
conversation
definitely.
as well.
But again, before we get into Arsenal, Matt, because I mean, you're meeting the boogeyman. Yeah, I mean, in the past seasons, 5-2. I mean, lots of beatings, lot of maimings down there at the Emirates. I mean, over West Ham United. I mean, in like 2-3 seasons ago, I mean, you guys tried to, I mean, derail our title charging, which you did in one
Mm.
occasion. I mean, there was a time where, I mean, we drew against you guys. Either you drew against us. I mean, it just really scuppered, our title charge at the time. But I mean, in recent times, we've been able to, manhandle you guys. I mean, we'll be looking into that Arsenal challenge coming on Saturday. I think it's on Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll face West Ham on Saturday. But just before that time, yeah, I really do think that West Ham don't really have the right personnel operating from the wings. I mean, and that was what David Moyes really tried to do when he was in West Ham. He tried to force the kind of players he had to play through the wings a bit. I'm not seeing a lot of width action with West Ham. Do you need to say anything about that? Because for
Um,
me, Paqueta isn't a winger. I
yeah.
mean, it's not. You could say Kudus would roam around,
Mm.
but I mean, he's not getting the best out of what he's doing in it. So sometimes you just really look at it and say, do you really have width players down there? I
Mm.
mean, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, you make a very good point because, well, under David Moyes, for example, I think a lot of it was based around being too one-sided. So like
Yeah,
a lot of the play was played down the right-hand side because Moyes, for some reason, I think it's because he was too reserved. He liked to play an extra midfielder on the left, so
mm,
because we like get more running power. So Ford Hours was played
yeah,
there. Like, he's a number 10. Ward Prowse was played there last year. Paquetá was played there last year. None of them are left wingers, as you said. Ben Rama was a left
yeah.
winger, and he only played him at left wing like around the back end of his career, but he just ultimately wasn't good enough in the end. But with Jared Bowen, he's the only winger that was used properly by Moyes because he was the only winger that played on the wing. And under Lopetegui, it was the same. Kudus on the left. Kudus is one of them players where it's like you can't really narrow it down his position but you're so versatile in each position, but you're not a
In its
specialist in one.
position,
Yeah, but you're not a
no
specialist in
specific,
one.
no, you're not a
Yeah,
specialist in it. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly, man.
exactly. Yeah, and we've missed out on, for example, Crescencio Somerville is a great signing, one of my favorite signings that we had in the summer.
But he's injured, right? He's injured,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, he's injured, and he got injured in Potter's first game and then suffered a setback in training. And Lopetegui, when he was here, didn't play him. Guilherme is a young Brazilian winger that we signed, and we don't give him enough game time. So if it was someone like me, I know people care about big names and people want to keep the names in the starting 11 because they on their day they're good and stuff like that. But when they're not performing, you got to be ruthless. So that's why I would give a Guilherme a chance with Jared Bowen
Mm,
on the wings, and I think coming up against someone like an Arsenal, for example, like I don't think you guys got necessarily the fullbacks that are terrible defensively. Like right now, you're playing Timber and Lewis Skelly. They're not easy to beat
yeah,
down the wings, but
yeah.
to give us more of a chance, at least play a Guilherme to at least test them. And play a Bowen. Obviously, Bowen needs to play on the right regardless, and he's going to. But you got to play these wingers on the wing regardless. They at least give us some form of a chance of running at these kind of defenders because when the way you guys
Mm,
defend, very aggressive, very tight, very compact, like it's going to be hard for us. It's going to be difficult because
yeah.
we're not going to have the ball that much. So we got to attack space as soon as possible every time we get the ball. but yeah, the lack of width is a big problem. But we have got the personnel to do that. I do think Potter does cover for that within his system as well. He likes to play one fullback on the wing and one winger on the wing, so it becomes wing
And
back.
one winger,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so that's why I like Ollie Skulls and Emerson, who are two left wing back options. They are very good out wide, so that does cover a lot for our left hand side. A lot. It's just that we need to get the runners in behind, like making a third man run from the midfield positions to actually help them a lot, so they can get a bit more help when we're creating chances.
Yeah, and I think that's why the loss of Fulkrug to that injury really removes the spice out of your attack. Because I mean, if he was fit enough to play, then you would say, okay, maybe Jared Bowen could be able to just run the shows around the wing and invert when possible, maybe through the wings or be the point man or interchange with Fulkrug in any way he could do that. It can create, it can be the guy to score goals, it could assist. He's that kind of guy. He could take shots out of the, just outside the 18-yard box. It's in his wheelhouse. He can do that. But I mean, when you don't have anyone to feed off from in that attacking position, I mean, it's just a Herculean task for Bowen to just run the show entirely. Is in the wings, is it's trying to create, is trying to take snapshot outside the 18-yard box, is trying to position himself, and the players don't even get through balls to him. Paqueta, Lakadasico, Kudus completely lost his head. I mean, so when you check these things, it means that Arsenal might be facing a very, very, very poor West Ham side that have only won once in 8 games that have played, inclusive of your game in the FA Cup. Now that takes us through to the Arsenal versus West Ham game. What do you think about that matchup, man? I mean, do you think this is the right time? I mean, you've had back-to-back losses here, bro. I mean, only one in about 8 games. Do you think now is it's a good time to face Arsenal? I mean, who's second in the league right now? Red hot from just beating Leicester City with Merino getting his 2 goals. I know we're talking about that later on and your views about that. But I mean, Arsenal is a team that has set their sights on the Premiership title. I mean, we've been bundled out from the FA Cup by Manchester United, at one of our biggest rivals. The manager has single-handedly taken us off the Carabao Cup. I mean, that Easter away at Newcastle, and of course Newcastle beat us at home too, disgracefully. The Premier League is the only avenue through which we can be able to hope for any kind of trophy. The Champions League is even a more higher task to even kind of cross. So you could really see that the Premiership is something we might not really play with. West Ham coming to Arsenal right now, is that too early for West Ham to steady the ship in any way? Do you fancy that challenge right now? Mostly right now that you just have only one win in 8 games. Is this the right
Yeah,
game for you?
I never look forward to playing Arsenal. I never ever look forward to playing Arsenal, and that's the truth because we've
Mm,
got a terrible against Chiefs in the Premier League anyway. But also, let's say like a Graham Potter, for example, let's say he was hired at the start of the season, I would have a little
yeah.
not hope that we'd win because I still wouldn't think that we'd win necessarily, but I think we'd actually give more of a performance because of the cohesiveness and how much we produced to be in terms of players in the squad at that time. I think we
Yeah.
will up in terms of performance in the game, just because we're playing against a bigger opponent. We seem to more turn up for the opponents that we're not meant to beat, rather than the teams we're meant, quote unquote, meant. I still don't think we'll win. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think the lack of goals is alarming, and I think again, as we like touched on, there'll be too much of a reliance on Jared Bowen to bail us out. I think it will
Mm,
probably help for this game. We probably won't have much of the ball, but what we don't do well with is we're capable of scoring first, and then you'll never see us again within that game. So we'll probably end
mm,
up possibly like 2-1 the same way we did against Chelsea, which to be fair,
yeah.
she put in a really good performance, but we needed to create more chances. And that was just the problem there. But I thought Potter got the game plan spot on there. I think Potter, what he's really good at, he'll keep his principles, but he will change for the opponent while still keeping his principles on the ball. So he'll just change it off,
Mm,
which is what I like. He's got a balance of attacking and pragmatism at the same time, which I like. Because I
yeah.
don't like ask for a particular style of play. Like I know a lot of people want a typical style of play, the eye, etc. I'm only going off
Mm-hmm,
what I can watch and how you can set up for each opponent anyway. I feel like against
mm-hmm,
Arsenal, despite the fact that you guys have a lot of attacking injuries and like I know like people were still not happy with the performance of
Not a
Sesko.
lot, bro. I'm moribund. My whole attacking lineup
Yeah,
is entirely out.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have any out and out striker. Gabriel
Yeah, Marino
Jesus
playing up front is
injured,
crazy. Yeah,
operation. Kai Havertz in an operation. I mean, Sterling has stank up the whole place.
yeah,
Martinelli, I mean, it's out,
yeah.
brother. I don't have any out and out striker. The only
No,
person I might be trying to have any kind of hope with is just Trossard, and
Waneri.
even Trossard. I mean, Trossard, I've had a couple of stinkers that
What about Waneri?
within the past few weeks. Waneri is not an out and out striker. I mean,
No, but it's just
it can
interesting
only
he's
come
like,
from the wings, innit?
yeah,
It can only come from the wings and help us out from the wings, innit? And again, he can't do it entirely alone. I mean, the last matchup, I mean, it's a clear evidence that he can't even do it alone, no matter the kind of effort or man of the match display that he gets. It doesn't mean he's gonna score goals. He needs that extra bit of help. Yeah, he tried a shot on goal, he hit the post. He tried another shot again. It went over the bar, but he was just the only one trying to, get in behind defenders, create spaces. I mean, he's trying to score goals. He's trying to create all at the same time because Martin Odegaard didn't even have. I mean, didn't have a good game. We didn't have any focal points. I mean, a point guy that we could actually send the ball to. So, or feed off. I mean, there was no other striker that could actually feed off maybe someone like Trossard. Yeah, it was up until when Merino came, then Trossard had someone he could actually feed off from. And, that pass came. Waneri had a point man to actually focus those kind of passes to. And then he sent very simple passes and simple goals. But I don't know if Merino has the technicality when it comes to complex defenses right now. And I know that Mavropanis Gilman isn't really, the best of defenders out there. I would
mm,
fancy my chances to go with Merino to just do the simple thing and then just, get us ahead down there. But I mean, after West Ham, I don't know where that's gonna take us. But again, let's concentrate on this one. Arsenal versus West Ham. Do you sense any kind of weakness in this Arsenal team that you can very exploit come this weekend? I mean, do you see any loopholes? I mean, do you see Odegaard as the kind of guy that is, it looks a little bit weak? You can exploit, some of his disadvantages. He loses the ball quite often these days. Would you want to put a little bit of physicality on him? Because I mean, he's been known to disappear when physical players actually just touch him just a little bit. I mean, just a little bit.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
act a little bit physical with him, and he completely loses his head. It completely is a ghost around there. Do you think Potter will put this in mind to try and stifle what Arsenal has in the middle of the park? And of course, Thomas Partey is good in it, but when Odegaard has a bad game, the entirety of the Arsenal squad seem to just sink down the ship with him. Do you think you're trying to exploit something in the weekend?
Yeah, I was going to mention Odegaard because I think if you like, I have a problem with a lot of like modern day number tens where in this era these number tens don't actually like the pressure of someone getting physical on them. And Odegaard is a product of that, in my opinion. I feel like, despite the fact that we don't have the best midfielders to have the game plan for him to stifle him, I still think putting someone on him is worth doing for this
Mm,
game plan. Like putting anyone on him, whether it's a Ward-Prowse, an Alvarez, a Suchek, I don't mind who, but just put someone on him to get tight with him. I think a lot of your
mm,
problems are actually when you guys have the ball rather than when you guys don't have the ball. I'm actually more scared when we have the ball. How are we going to break your defense down? Because you're really good at
mm,
defending. You guys have a really tight
yeah,
unit. Skelly's really impressed me. Timber, Gabriel, and Saliba are infamous, like with how good they've been as a centre back partnership. And your midfield, obviously Declan Rice, obviously Thomas Partey. When they're physical, when you get the physical players in there, it's very hard to overrun that. And I feel like
yeah,
that part is fine. It's just when you guys have the ball, I feel like you're way too reliant on one side a lot. Whether Saka's
yeah,
playing there or Wanyeri's playing there, it's very too right sided.
yeah,
Like that's why, because when you guys don't have the left sided centre midfielder and a left winger to really link up properly, And so your best threat is probably Lewis Skelly at that point, going down the left-hand side. Doesn't
Yeah,
mean that Trossard
yeah.
can't pop up with the odd goal, but we've seen Trossard has his major deficiencies. I feel like a lot of your
Mhm.
problems are more on the ball than off the ball. So for me, I'm more afraid of when we have the ball. Because as much as we're
Yeah.
better coached now, I don't think we're good enough right now at this current moment in time to break you guys down. Or we could only really like get many chances when we're running into space. I actually feel like
Mm.
if we play Tadibo instead of Mavropanos, because Tadibo's back, he should be eased back into this game for me. If we play him and Kilman together, that make Kilman's actually a lot stronger when Mavropanos isn't there. Kilman's a good defender when
Yeah.
Mavropanos isn't there, because obviously centre back's all about partnerships. But if we had Mavropanos playing, I would generally think that Merino could get another couple goals just because Mavropanos is that bad. I think Mavropanos is capable of scoring for you guys. And that's how bad I think he is. Like with Mavropanos and Kilman,
Guys, listen to this. Listen to this,
like,
guys.
I'm being serious. I'm being serious. Like with Mavropanos and Kilman, they're way too easy to overrun. But when you got Tadibo there, Tadibo covers for everything that Kilman isn't good at, whether it's aerial
Mm.
ability or pace, or they're both quite strong. But Tadibo's like a proper unit that's strong and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fast on the ball as well. So I think if we have him there, we've got a better chance of conceding less goals. But then again, we might
Mm.
concede that one odd goal still. Football happens. You might make your own luck. It might be a deflection, or you might just rip us open for that one chance that we might not score again. So it can easily be like
Mm.
a 1-0 if a Tadibo is playing, but if like a Mavropanos is playing, then I see a 2-3-0. The only reason why I say that as well is because since Graham Potter's come in, I don't think we're actually that bad defensively when we're trying to set up off the ball. It's mainly because of individual errors when we give away the ball too much and we get hit on the turnover when we're already open because we're set up to play on the ball at that current moment in time and we get hit on the counter and whatever. But when the other team has the ball and they're
Although
trying
we've
to hit
already
us,
established the fact that you, you, you have a bad defense. We've established that fact.
yeah,
Mike, I mean, I don't know if you've come to terms with the fact that you've conceded 47 goals in the
yeah,
league, just the league, this
that's what I
season in 25 games. I
yeah.
mean, when you say, when you talk about, that Mavropanos, I mean, that your defenders, I mean, could still get, you know, there's still that shining light in your defense in the way you're putting it. And I don't get it because you've conceded 47 goals. That's not good enough.
The reason why
It's
I'm
not
saying
good
that,
enough.
the reason why I'm saying it is because a lot of those individuals for me were dragged down by the structure of the way that the Lopetegui set up his defense in the first place, with why we conceded so many goals over there. With Graham Potter,
Over there. Okay.
the way we've conceded goals under Graham Potter, it's mainly because we've made mistakes to put the defense under unneeded pressure when we're already open. So like the
Okay.
midfielders and the attackers are giving away the ball too much, and a lot of the
Mm.
mistakes. I'm not even trying to scapegoat anyone, but Mavropanos lets a lot of the players down when he is in the team. He makes Emerson, Kilman, and Wan-Bissaka a lot worse. I want to see
Yeah.
a Graham Potter back four with Wan-Bissaka, Tadibo, Kilman, and Emerson together because I do think that's our strongest back four. I do think they could work
So you want
perfectly
Mavropanos
in
to
the
be
Graham Potter
dropped?
team.
You
Definitely,
want
definitely,
Mavropanos to be dropped? Okay.
definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. You raised the point about Saliba being a unit. I mean, I'm not taking shots at my own player, yeah, but I mean, I think Real Madrid's impending bid
Mm.
for William Saliba has turned his head. I mean, if there's any team right now that really wants to get in over Arsenal defenders, that's the right place to attack. Because I mean, I've looked at his I've looked at his gameplay, yeah, in recent games, and I just really feel like I mean, that impending bid from Real Madrid is really turning his head. I mean, I've seen defenders run at him, and he's just running away from contact in a way, and that wasn't Saliba 2 seasons ago. Even a season ago, it was really that solid. I mean, 2 seasons ago, I was saying, you know what? Yeah, I would like us to actually sell Gabriel Magalhaes and get him off our football club. But this season, I'm actually thinking that Gabriel Magalhaes is actually what Saliba used to be 2 seasons ago than what he used to be. So I mean, if you're looking for a space to exploit in our defense, man, I think it's William Saliba right now, and I just think that Real Madrid thing has turned its head. And of course, you also made mention that Arsenal always kind of like drift towards the right hand side. Of course, Bukayo Saka. I mean, that kid has actually literally carried Arsenal all through the season before. I mean, he got shut down with the with the injury. But again, Waneri has popped up down that right hand side, and we're following suit, and that's because of how horrible our left-sided wingers have been this season. I mean, not even this season. I mean, even for 2 seasons, because 2 seasons ago, Martinelli had about 15 goals. This season is scraping with about 5 goals in the Premiership. I mean, it's not good enough. And considering how Mikel Arteta likes to play, it gives so much credence to his with players.
Yeah.
He loves his with players. So it's just kind of funny that Kai Havertz has about 15 goals, and most of the other goals have been spread abroad the team, mostly thanks to our defenders who, through set pieces, have actually helped us out this season. And that takes me to my next question. My brother, what do you think is cooking when Arsenal comes with a set piece? I mean, I've seen West Ham concede horrible goals through set pieces this season. I mean, most of them came from the Lopetegui era, to be very, very fair to West Ham anyway. But do you sense any kind of reservations when Arsenal goes head to head with West Ham in terms of set pieces? Because I mean, Saliba, mostly Gabriel Magalhaes will fancy, just pushing West Ham a little bit sideways when it comes to set pieces. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely most threatened by Arsenal from a set piece because, like, over the past few years, when it wasn't even renowned, where Arsenal weren't even renowned for set pieces, you guys have got
Mm,
us in previous matches in terms of like scoring set pieces. Even under David Boyes, it's happened under David Boyes as well, where we were used to be renowned for not conceding set pieces and scoring them
yeah.
ourselves. And under Lopetegui, that happened a lot. It obviously happened against you guys. You got a penalty from one of them as well. Like it happened a lot where we were just flapping all the time. The goalkeeper and the defenders, there was no communication. But what I will say
At
under Graham
all, man.
Potter is that like he has done really well to set up of like when it comes to defensive set pieces and the coaching stuff, have done really well in terms of that. Um, so I'm set, but regardless of the fact that we haven't conceded a set piece under Potter yet, I would still be afraid of Arsenal just because you guys specialize in how can you exploit a certain team. We need to set up in terms of how do we think you're going to exploit us, and we need to be ready for whatever you're going to come with, because if you guys have pretty much like 2 game plans per game, because if you can see that like one isn't going to work, you'll go for a different kind of set piece. If
You
you
go
get
for the
another
different one.
yeah, that's why I'm like we got to always play chess with that. You got to see that coming before they do, sort of
Mm,
thing. That's what I'm looking from my perspective. I'm definitely afraid of someone
yeah.
like a Gabriel in the air for sure.
Yeah, definitely. See, yeah, I mean, we have to talk about this Merino magic here. I mean,
Mm,
you saw what happened against Leicester. To be very sincere with you, Leicester is considered 55, bro. The whooping amount of goals, yeah, that these teams are, I mean, are getting this season. I mean, of course, we'll still also highlight the fact that you're just 10 points above relegation zone. This
yeah,
is a very important match for you, Mike, man. I mean, I don't have to overstate that. You know that. But throw that all away. Yeah. When you see Merino come from the bench, yeah,
mhm,
tap tap boom, he scores the first goal, puts Arsenal ahead against Leicester City. Tap tap boom again. Positional awareness. I mean,
yeah,
better than Kai Havertz. To be very sincere with you, I wouldn't lie to you. I, I would bet against Kai Havertz scoring any of those 2 goals. I would bet
same.
against Sterling scoring any of those 2 goals. I'm
Yeah,
sincere. That's how horrible our striking position really is right now. I,
yeah,
I can actually even say Jesus might not get those goals. To be very
yeah,
sincere with you. Now that you know that Mikel Arteta is gonna insert, for whatsoever reason, Mikel Merino into that number 9 slot, do you think you have what it takes to be able to malhandle Merino? Because I mean, he's not well versed in the techniques of striking.
yeah,
Sometimes you really need that number 9 striker that has a little bit of trickery and a little bit of turns, twists and turns and all that. The goals he scored were just a poacher's goal. If you position yourself quite well in the 18-yard box of the opposition team, you will get those kind of goals. But sometimes when you are in between defenders that defend quite intricately and very complexly, the shoves, the pushes, the tight marking, zonal or whatsoever, or man-to-man marking, you might literally have a problem because you're not a striker, you're a midfielder at heart. So do you really sense any kind of pressure? Mostly with how he scored those goals, do you think that Merino is a threat on Saturday? I mean, it's crazy I'm saying this, Mike, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's bonkers. But do you really sense any kind of threat with Merino? Let's just say Merino is in our first 11. Does
Yeah.
that send shivers to you, Mike, come Saturday?
I'm not even taking the mick when I say this, but only if Mavropanos starts. If he starts, like, I do think Marino will get the best of him because I'm looking at the Leicester defenders, and they haven't been renowned to be that good individually, especially like a Wout Faes or a Vestergaard, for example, or even a Caleb Bacoli, who's probably their best centre back, isn't really the best in terms of, like, he's not like a natural defender anyway. Like, none of them look like natural defenders, and that's kind of the problem with Leicester in general. But I think regardless, Marino will take that. It will take some confidence into that. But sometimes it might be a case of he might not even start him again from at striker from the start, and he might put him off the bench again because he feels like that
Off the
works.
bench again.
So yeah, so it might be more effective that way. I'd still be afraid regardless because I don't know what we're gonna do in terms of the mistakes we might make, but also like depending on the personnel that we start as well. I think if we start Kilman and Debo, I think I'm not really that afraid of Marino. I think they'll deal with them quite well. But if we start Mavropanos, anyone can score. Me and you can score
Anyone
against
can
Mavropanos.
score.
Me and you can score against Mavropanos. I promise you. Like,
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike, just before we end proceedings, yeah, we have a couple of more minutes. What would you like to be your first 11 to approach Arsenal this Saturday? And I mean, it has to be a team that is defensively solid. I can't emphasize that because in the first 20 minutes that your 18-yard box is going to be bombarded with lots of, maybe not shots per se, but with lots of territorial attacks here and there, because Arsenal per se don't have a point man. We're never too direct with our attacks in any way. Even if we do have possession of the ball in the first 20 minutes, we hardly even score goals with them. I mean, we have to struggle to actually get goals, and actually because we don't even have a point man to even help us out, that makes it more difficult. But it doesn't mean we won't keep possession of the ball, because we do have flying wing backs, and we do have midfielders that like keeping possession of the ball. So definitely we might lay siege of your 18-yard box in spells in that matchup. So definitely you want your defense to be a more conquered defense. What's your first 11 coming up on Saturday against Arsenal?
I'd like Alphonse Areola to keep his place in goal. I think Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, and Emerson as the back four. Obviously, we set up in a back three in possession, but Wan-Bissaka can tuck into a back three when we're playing in possession and stuff like that. I want Ward-Prowse to come in for Souček because he made more of an impact against Brentford than Souček did.
But I think Souček has been very good. He's played well this season.
He's played more under Potter. I think I wouldn't mind him starting, but I think just for the case of when we have the ball, we need to progress the ball quick. And I think Ward-Prowse is better at progressing the ball a bit quicker. I don't trust Alvarez, but we need that natural number 6 person in there. So I would put Alvarez there just for balance sake, even though I don't trust him. We don't really have many options within that position regardless, unless they want to play a Rodriguez there, which I don't mind for the odd game. But I'll say Alvarez and Ward-Prowse in the pivot. I want Guilherme to start because I need another natural winger on the left. We don't have Somerville. Kudus hasn't been at it. So I would like Guilherme to start. Paquetá in the 10 because he on his day he can have a good final ball, so you never really know what you're going to get with him. But I do trust him to turn up in the big games. It's more the games where his team's around us and sort of thing where I don't really trust him. Jared Bowen on the right, natural position, all of that. Like Bowen is Bowen. I don't even really need to say too much. And Evan Ferguson up front, I need him to start. Give him a chance. We signed him. He's only on loan. Give him a chance. I think it'll be a good game to test him out.
Mike, how big, is the Declan Rice miss at West Ham? Like, to what extent have you missed Declan Rice? I mean, tall, 6 foot plus, imposing figure. I mean, captain, leadership qualities. He has everything. In that matchup against Leicester City, he was running the box to box kind of a cruise. I've always said he's a box to box kind of midfielder. It gives you a lot through that rather than just sitting down in that number 6 position. I think it could be a very mobile midfielder. You know, I think it could give you a whole lot going forward. But to what extent have you missed him at West Ham? I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, like he's like in my lifetime, obviously, I haven't seen many good players, like many great players at West Ham. But like in the like when we look at natural defensive midfielders and natural like tacklers and natural like driving with the ball kind of players, Declan Rice is the best that I've seen in the midfield. Obviously at my club,
Mm,
and what we've really missed from him is more his ability to stop counter attacks when we are in danger. He would, and I've kind of felt sorry for him when he was here because he was covering for about 3 players and really helping a lot. Like with Aaron Cresswell down the left hand side, he was covering his position.
yeah,
He was covering Souček a lot in his midfield position when he was going forward. He was covering Sufal at right back. Like, he was doing it all, and he never really lost the ball for us. He would keep it ticking.
yeah,
He would calm. He would calm everyone down. And I think Joy is he was developing. He's developing into a leader. And I think the difference
mm,
is with him at Arsenal and him at West Ham is he can feel like he's a big fish in a small pond necessarily at us because when we need someone to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, it'll be him, Bowen, Antonio all turning up, and he'll be one of them trying to drive with the ball. I think at Arsenal, you can't really do that because you're at Arsenal sort of thing. There's other players there that are going forward there that people would rely upon a bit more, like a Saka, for example, as well. But I think what we've missed from Declan Rice is his presence in midfield, where he had great communication with every centre back that played. Even if it was a terrible centre back at West Ham, he would somehow make them better because he had great communication. If it wasn't for Rice, we probably would have conceded a lot more goals. And
yeah,
the thing is as well, like it's not even about just to know what he means. It's about the ability on the pitch. Like he would not lose any duel. He would not lose any aerial duel, any ground duel. He'd always win the ball back. If we needed to press high at certain times, he'd win the ball high up the pitch. And it's mainly for me the grabbing the games by the scruff of the neck sort of thing from a midfielder, which a lot of people look at it from an attacking point of view, like a final third player needs to grab the game by the scruff
yeah,
of the neck. But a
yeah.
midfielder needs to sometimes as well, and that's what we're missing right now.
Yeah, I hear you, Mike's. You know what? Yeah, you're a West Ham fan, but I also, because I've seen your shows. To be very sincere, I've always wanted to work with you because I do like your footballing IQ, and I like the way I mean, you do your streams, and you know, I mean, there's just the way you do your streams. Yeah, I mean, not too serious. Sometimes when you're serious, it can be. When you don't want to be serious, you know, you joke a lot and stuff like that. I really like it, but to be very sincere with you, I need to give me a sincere answer. No jokes, no
Yeah,
banters.
yeah,
I mean, just be very plain.
yeah,
Arsenal is going head to head with Liverpool for this title.
yeah.
Who do you think is going to win this title?
I still will stick with Liverpool for winning the league because I still feel like even though neither team did enough in the transfer window, I just feel like Liverpool have more of a ready-made squad for the league title because they've been
Hmm,
even though Arsenal have been there before, a lot of their players have been there before for a couple more years, and a lot of their players are ready-made in terms of like the big games, in terms of the big competitions, like a Salah, a Van Dijk, and a Trent, who they're they're not heavily reliant on one player, despite them having a star player there. I feel like despite
hmm,
that with Arsenal, they have a
yeah,
Saka, but they don't have a Trent. You don't have a like Saliba and Gabriel are very good, but they're not a Van Dijk level for me. Where like Van Dijk will calm the presence down very quick with his leadership, but also have the physical
hmm,
presence to stop everything in defence. I just feel like Liverpool have a bit more star quality in a bit more everything around the pitch, and I just think
yeah.
and despite the fact that they just about got over the line against Wolves, right now for both Liverpool and Arsenal, it's kind of about results, not about performances at this current moment in time. But
At
performances
this
from like the
point,
first half of
right?
the season are going to put you there in the first place. So I'm still going to say Liverpool because I feel like Arsenal really needs to do something in the previous 2 transfer windows to really overtake Manchester City. And now that Man City are not there, it's Liverpool that have taken that opportunity.
Might Liverpool go down to the Etihad? I mean, yeah. I mean, they go to the Etihad. That's not going to be an easy game. They have a game against Aston Villa. That
Yeah,
too is not going to be an easy game. They
no, it
have a
won't be.
game against Newcastle. In fact, that's the next three games. Do you really think in any way that they drop points in any of these games? Because mind you, they drop points against Everton. I understand that that's a
Mm,
Merseyside derby, of course. That, but they drop points. I mean,
yeah,
they played against Wolves, and you can just really smell it. That you know
yeah,
they escaped. From that one, and I understand it's a thing of champions to actually scrape through games and come out with a win. I get that, but they have Newcastle, they have Aston Villa, they have to go down there to the Etihad. Do you think
yeah.
they're going to drop points in these three games?
I think they could drop points in Aston Villa and Manchester City for sure. I think they'll just about get
Mm,
over the line against Aston Villa just because of how many injuries Aston Villa have. And despite Villa, they will turn up anyway because it's Villa Park. But I think they might draw against Man City and then beat Newcastle. I do think the points gap will be a bit closer. However, for me, I
mm,
just think I don't know whether Arsenal. Sometimes when I look at Arsenal, I feel like you're very, very good against the teams that people might write you off against, or the bigger games where you have a lot more space on the pitch. But against the teams you're
mm,
meant to beat, I feel like Arsenal are always capable of maybe slipping against one of those teams where that will give Liverpool the gap. I think Liverpool, to be fair, despite the fact that they've been really, really good this season, they've only lost once. I think they've drawn still one too many times, and they should have had the gap a
mm.
lot bigger by now. I know they didn't invest either, but with what the standard we hold you to, that's why I criticise Liverpool for that. I still feel like the
Yeah.
gap should be a bit bigger, but I do think they will just about get over the line against Villa, draw against Man City, and because they against Newcastle at home, they'll beat Newcastle.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike stomped the yard today. I mean, see you guys, yeah. Mike, whenever people come to this particular show, I always make it a little bit very, very interactive. I make it a hot chase, yeah. So, you know what, yeah, I'm giving you a 9 over 10. You're one of the best that has come here and faced the heat. Yeah, see,
Appreciate it.
big ups to Mike. Yeah, see, those of you in the chat, you're gonna be seeing Mike down here most of the time, and of course, if you want me to collaborate once in a while on his channel, I will do that, for him. Mike, tell these people where they could find you, man. And you know what, Mike's, man, I really, really, apart from, coming to this show today, I really, really, really value your professionalism. I mean, I look at your channel. Of course, not everyone would do Lee Gunner numbers. Not everyone would do, you know, I mean, talk sport numbers. Not
Yeah,
everyone would do that, but I mean, when it comes to the content you drop, uh, uh, you know, how well versed your knowledge of football really is. I mean, I give that to you, and I respect you for that, man. You're really doing much on your channel, and please just keep the fight and keep the light and keep the fire burning. Hopefully, we get to get lots of shows going up when we can draft something together. But big ups to you, and thanks for coming around here. I really, really do respect your mics. Big ups to you, man. And please
thank you.
tell these people where they could find you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the channel. It's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. And big up to the chat as always as well. Is if you want to find me on YouTube, it's at GVO Mics on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on any social medias, it's at GVO Mics on all platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And yeah, I stream and post every day. I'm trying to reach 1K subscribers before the Premier League season ends. So if you want to see me more, you can find me at GVO Mics on YouTube.
See ya, people. You know what to do. Mike's channel. Guys, go and subscribe to Mike's. Yeah? It doesn't get better than that. You're gonna be seeing him down here at times when when he can be free, because it seems like he's a very busy guy these days. But Mike's, I'm gonna get you down here when it's possible. But just before you go, please, just before you go, your prediction for that game. I failed to ask you that. Your prediction for that game. Please don't say Arsenal 6. Don't say Arsenal 6.
I don't know. I don't think it'll be a battering scoreline. I do think you guys will outplay us though. I think it'll be a 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, Mike says 2-0 Arsenal. See ya, guys. Join me in Bant, yeah, later this evening. Waffle TV. Me and him are just going to chat about the Premiership, talk about Arsenal, talk about everything that's happened in the league. And also, guys, remember, a big, big, big matchup is coming tomorrow. Me and Josh True, my guy, yeah. We'll be doing the watch along Real Madrid versus Man City. Guys, of course, we want Man City to be bundled out of that Champions League. We don't want them near there, right? So, you know, it's only just that me and Josh True gonna put up, put up a brave face in the watch along tomorrow. So join us for that one. But this evening, join me and Waffle TV this evening, probably maybe around 8 p.m. for the show this evening. Mike's, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man. From me and Mike's, we are out. Peace, people.